All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakahakwadash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth through the Holy Spirit. Peace and blessings and salutations to the Lord's hopeful elect. I'm the brother Zion, and Lord willing, this lesson is edifying to feed the sheep and the lambs of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. And I was checking out this video here by the elder Yashawamba, okay? And it's entitled Every Idle Word, all right? And you have these particular individuals who just blatantly lie on the comment board, all right? You can check this video out for yourself if you haven't already. You know, he's got a lot of hits on it already within the last day. But it was basically going into how the younger brother from the ISUPK came up to Dallas and he basically jumped in the lion's den. And, you know, the brothers didn't really even get on him like that, but they just basically told him that the doctrine that your men teach are wicked, about John the Baptist, falling out the truth. So I was watching this video real quick, and this individual, let me go back to it real quick.
Sure, man, because we're close.
Salakia. Right about here. All right, this individual, Luca Brassi. All right, because in the video, well, one of the videos, I think one of the brothers said, do your research on marriageable age in ancient Israel. And it's real simple to look it up. I don't know why these dudes make it harder than what it is. He said, I went and did the research you spoke of, and nowhere does it actually confirm that women were getting married in their early teenage years in ancient Israel, which is a lie. You can't provide a source that proves that. You can't provide a source that proves that, either because you know that the fake Jews' early practices don't represent what we actually did. Based off the research I did and reading the Bible, you could also come to the conclusion that being of marriageable age is referring to women in their early 20s. Sounds like y'all just want children. That's probably why one of y'all is locked up right now, which I don't know anything about that. It says, if your doctrine is true, why isn't the Most High saving him? All right, so this person is basically saying that marriageable age in ancient Israel was for a woman was her early 20s. All right, so, going back to what the elder Yashawamba was saying, these people really they're uncomfortable with how things were done back then, and that we mention it now. We're simply saying in the ancient world, this is how things were done. And it's true. Women didn't wait till they was 40 or 35 to get married like you do in this society. Things were different. Furthermore, these are the ways of the West, and biblical ways are the ways of the East. And in certain cultures, women still are, prepared at a particular age when they're young to be married. That's just not the way that they do things in America. Like we always said, we've never advocated it. We never said go out and do that. We're just bringing out biblical proof how things were done. Now, I did a video on this as well before, but I'm gonna do it again because it took me literally 5 seconds to type this up on chat GPT, which gave us some facts ASAP. All right, since the spirit is out there, let's see what it says, right? So I typed in, what was marriageable age for a woman in the time of the biblical Israelites? It says, in the time of the biblical Israelites, roughly spanning from the late Bronze Age through the Iron Age, all right, 1200 through 500 BCE, the marriageable age of a woman was typically shortly after puberty, when she was considered physically mature enough to bear children. Okay? This is when she was ready to be married, during the time of puberty, shortly after. Basically meaning after her period started. I mean, this is just simple, basic knowledge, man. when she was considered physically mature enough to bear children. All right, biblical and historical context. The Hebrew Bible Old Testament doesn't give a specific legal minimum age for marriage. However, many passages and later J traditions suggest that girls were betrothed in their early to mid teens. Okay, so that could be 13. It can go from 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, you know. For example, Deuteronomy 22, similar laws about betrothal and virginity imply a young and unmarried woman living under her father's authority until marriage. Okay, in ancient Israelite society, marriage was viewed as a family alliance and an economical social arrangement, not a romantic union. Okay, like today. All right, so it often occurred soon after a girl reached puberty. Well, that don't sound like what you said, my boy. It doesn't sound like what you said. You said marriageable age is referring to a woman in her early 20s. In her early 20s, that's way after puberty. Okay? And once again, we're simply bringing out ancient customs and biblical facts. Why are you niggas so hurt? Why you get so upset? It's okay to listen to a nigga to tell you to go get the jab, but when we bring out biblical facts, everybody is up in a frenzy. It occurred soon after she reached puberty, man. That's when she was ready to be married, when she was ready to bear children, after the flower of her age. Okay? Let's go down to here. We just gonna get the facts. While this gives 18 as an ideal in practice, marriages often occurred earlier, around 12 to 14 years old, which was roughly the age of puberty for girls. Okay? A girl's betrothal, erusin, could even occur before puberty, with marriage, nicesin, whatever that is, if I'm saying it right, following when she matured. Okay? Let's go down again. All right, well, this is ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. Girls often married around 12 to 15 years old, that's around that same region. Okay? Boys married later, usually in their late teens or early 20s, once they could support a household. So for the woman, it was once she was able to bear children. For the man, it was once he was able to financially support the household. Okay? And it all makes sense. Legal and social considerations. A girl's father had legal authority over her and arranged her marriage. Consent from the girl herself was not always required. Through later Jewish law emphasized she should agree. All right, that she should agree. Virginity at marriage was culturally and legally significant. Okay, Deuteronomy 22, which we went into several times. Now let's look at the summary. In biblical Israelite society, you hear that, Luca Brasi? In biblical Israelite society, the marriageable age for a woman was typically shortly after puberty, around 12 to 14 years old. Are we saying go out and deal with a woman of that age right now today? Hell no. Why? Because you would get locked up. Why? Because this is not, we're not under the customs of how we used to do things. We're in captivity. Okay? The ways of the West have tainted the way Jake thinks, man. It's simply a biblical custom. That's how we did things back in the ancient world, man. But niggas have been so westernized and Americanized. You sick, brother. You sick, brother. Ooh. Hey, you can't see how things were done back then that's on you. Though some later traditions idealized a significantly older age around 18, The practice was in line with border ancient Near Eastern norms. Would you like? No. Then I typed in, I had to type it in. What was the flower of a woman's age? Because that's what it says in the scriptures. The phrase, the flower of a woman's age, or the flower of her youth, is an old poetic or biblical expression that refers to the period just after puberty. So when the elders and apostles first brought this out long ago, out on 34th and 7th, when they said when the woman passes the flower of her age, that means she could bear children, they were correct. But when your feelings is in the way of true understanding, you're gonna act a certain way. When a young woman reaches physical maturity, but it's still in the prime of her youth and beauty. See, in this society, a woman waits till she's 40. When niggas done ran through you, when your titties is sagging, your ass ain't the same no more. Now you want to settle down with a man. Now you want a man now after you done been ran through by the whole hood done ran through you. You ain't got that body no more. You ain't got that shape no more. Now you want to settle down. Well, guess what? In the ancient world, it wasn't like that. When a woman reaches her physical maturity and she's in her prime of her youth and beauty, that's when she was ready to marry. But in this society, oh, girl, you got to have your whole phase. You got to have your whole phase. Completely fucking backwards, man. That's why the ways of the Lord are what it says. That's how it's supposed to be. Meaning of the expression, the flower metaphor, like the flower that just bloomed, refers to a woman's freshness, fertility, and prime reproductive age. Yeah, when you get up there in age, it's harder for you to have kids. It's harder for you to have children. But when you in your prime, it's easy for you to bear children. Or when you fresh. Okay? It's very, very easy understanding, man. But not to a nigga with a fucking rock head. Like this dude right here, man. It literally took me less than 45 seconds to pull up this information. Literally. In ancient societies, including amongst the Israelites, Greeks, and Romans, this was typically the early to mid-teen years when a girl's body was first showed signs of womanhood. It marked the transition from being a child under her father's household to being eligible for marriage and motherhood. Did you hear that, Rockhead? You're a stupid nigga, man. I'm gonna call you what you are. Cause I'm tired of you niggas, man. You don't truly understand biblical context. And I'm not being as calm as Elder Yashawamba was. Cause like he said, he's done videos on it. But it's so simple to get your hands on the information. And this dude talking about some, oh, I did the research. Where did you do the research at? And why didn't you do a video on it? Because you're a liar, man. All right, then it goes into 1 Corinthians 17:36 when she passed the flower of her age. Yep, meaning she has passed the first bloom of puberty and is of marriageable age, man. Point blank period, man. The flower of her age, all right, age range, referred roughly to the time just after puberty, typically around 12 to 14 years old in the ancient world. Not in America, in the ancient world. And that's simply all we've been telling you niggas, man. Okay? A woman who had passed a woman who had passed the flower of her age might be in her late teens or early 20s. Still young, but no longer at the very beginning of her fertility. You said that women getting married in their early teens. What do you say? Women in their early teenage years in ancient Israel. No, what do you say? Marriageable age is referring to a woman in their early 20s. Well, what does this say? It says when she passed the flower of her age, she was in her early 20s. Yeah, she was still young, but she wasn't in the beginning of her fertility. All right. So that's the point, man. Hey, simple. I typed in 2 questions and I got all of this information. What was marriageable age for a woman in the time of the biblical Israelites? And then I said, what was the flower of a woman's age? And it gave me this information. So there you go. Once again, marriageable age in ancient Israel, man.